He laughed as he kicked his wife out empty-handed, but what she knew shocked everyone. Jennifer Thompson still heard the echo of that cruel laugh when the door slammed in her face. 17 years of marriage had ended right there, in front of the entire neighborhood of Oakridge, with her husband Richard throwing her last few clothes onto the sidewalk, while laughing as if it were the funniest thing in the world. "Leave with nothing, because there's nothing in this house that's yours," he shouted, still laughing, pointing his finger at her. 17 years of sucking me dry. Enough." Jennifer swallowed the lump in her throat and looked at the scattered clothes on the ground. The neighbors had come out to watch the spectacle, some shaking their heads in disapproval, others whispering among themselves. Mrs. Thompson, the neighbor next door, stepped forward with a bag. "Gather your things, dear. Don't stand there putting on a show for these people," the older woman said, helping Jennifer pick up her clothes. From the gate, Richard kept laughing. "Look at the poor thing. Now she'll actually have to work. No more fool of a husband to pay for her luxuries." His mother, Mrs. Wilson, appeared at the window and joined in. "About time, Richard. She was never any good. I always knew she was after your money." Jennifer took the bag from Mrs. Thompson's hands and murmured a barely audible thank you. Her legs trembled, but she couldn't show weakness. Not here, not in front of everyone. She started walking down the cobblestone street, unsure where to go. "And don't come back here crying," Richard shouted after her. "You'll never set foot in this house again." His laughter echoed down the street, and Jennifer quickened her pace. Only when she turned the corner did she let the first tears fall. She was 42 years old, with a bag of clothes and nowhere to go. At least that's what Richard thought. The sun was setting when Jennifer reached downtown Oakridge. The town wasn't big, everyone knew each other, and she was sure news of the separation had already spread. She needed a place to stay the night, but had no money or cards. Richard had always controlled everything, saying women didn't need to worry about such things. She remembered Hope House, a temporary shelter run by the church. She'd never imagined she'd need a place like that, but now she had no choice. "Good evening," she said to the man at the front desk, a grey-haired gentleman who looked at her kindly. "Good evening, dear. How can I help you?" "I need a place to stay, just temporarily until I get back on my feet." The man didn't ask questions. He just handed her a form to fill out. Jennifer hesitated at the marital status section. Married? Separated? Divorced? She left it blank. The room was small, with 2 simple beds. Her roommate was a woman in her 60s, white hair tied in a low bun, sitting on the bed reading a book. "Hello, dear. I'm Dorothy," the woman said, closing her book. "First time here." "I'm Jennifer. And yes, first time. I imagine it was hard coming here. It always is." Jennifer sat on the bed and finally let the tears flow freely. Dorothy moved closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Want to talk? Sometimes it helps. My husband threw me out today. Said I never contributed anything, that I just spent his money all these years." Dorothy shook her head. "Men like that think women are dead weight. They don't know what they have at home." "He's not wrong," Jennifer said, wiping her eyes. "I stopped working when we got married. Took care of the house, looked after his mother for 5 years until she passed, but I never brought in money. And you think keeping a home and caring for an elderly person isn't work?" Jennifer didn't answer. Richard always said she had an easy life, that anyone could do what she did. "Listen, honey," Dorothy continued, "I have a proposal. I've been working in cleaning for many years and have a few regular clients. One of my employers needs help. It's just housekeeping work, but she offers a small room in the back of the house for whoever needs it." The offer was humiliating. Jennifer had a degree in business administration and had worked at a bank before getting married. But what choice did she have now? What kind of person is she? Ms. Parker is a hard-working woman, a bit stern sometimes, but fair. She lost her husband 2 years ago and is running the business alone. She has an accounting firm downtown. "I'll take it," Jennifer said without hesitation. "When can I start?" "Tomorrow, if you want. She lives in a big house in Highland Park and always complains she can't handle everything alone." That night, Jennifer barely slept. Not because of the hard bed or the unfamiliar surroundings, but because of the humiliation she felt. 17 years ago, when she married Richard, she never imagined she'd end up like this. He had a small but thriving auto repair shop. She worked as an administrative assistant at the town's First National Bank, and earned well. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. When they got married, Richard insisted she quit her job. "My wife doesn't need to work outside," he'd say. "My shop can support an entire family." And it did. In the early years, life was good. The shop grew, Richard hired more employees, and they moved to a bigger house. Jennifer took care of the home and dreamed of children who never came. When Richard's mother fell ill, he didn't even ask if she wanted to care for her mother-in-law. He simply brought the woman home. "You don't have anything else to do anyway," he said at the time. "At least you'll be good for something." 5 years caring for Mrs. Wilson, 5 years of daily scolding, hearing she never did anything right, that her son deserved better. When her mother-in-law passed away 2 years ago, Jennifer thought maybe she could reclaim her life, maybe go back to work. But Richard grew more distant, more cruel. "Why would you want to work?" he'd say when she suggested returning to the bank. "You don't even remember how to do those things. You're old. No one would hire you." The next morning, Dorothy took Jennifer to Ms. Parker's house. It was truly large, an imposing white 2-story home with a well-kept garden in front. Jennifer felt a pang in her chest. Her old house had been like that too, before Richard let everything fall apart. Ms. Parker was a woman in her 50s, with short brown hair streaked with grey, dressed in impeccable business attire. She carried herself firmly, but her gaze wasn't cruel. "Dorothy told me about you," she said, looking Jennifer up and down. "Tough situation, huh?" "Yes, ma'am." "No need for ma'am, just Lucia. The job is Monday through Friday, 7 to 5. Saturdays are half days if I need something special. The room is out back with its own bathroom. Do you cook?" "Yes, I cook well." "Even better. I've been eating out a lot because I don't have the patience to cook. If you handle meals too, I can raise the pay a bit." Jennifer agreed immediately. It wasn't what she'd dreamed of for her life, but it was a start. At least she'd have a roof over her head and wouldn't have to see Richard's smug face every day. The little room was simple but clean. A single bed, a small wardrobe, a little table, and a chair. The bathroom was tiny but had everything she needed. Jennifer put away her few clothes and looked out the small window. From there she could see part of the city, including the neighborhood where she used to live. "Don't dwell on the past," she told herself. "Now it's time for a fresh start." Ms. Parker turned out to be a demanding but fair employer. She wanted everything clean and organized, but she acknowledged when the work was done well. On the 3rd day, while Jennifer was cleaning her home office, she couldn't help but notice the papers scattered across the desk. "Do you work in accounting?" she asked, unable to hold back. "I do. I have a small business, a few clients here in town. Do you know about these things?" Jennifer hesitated. She didn't want to sound presumptuous. "A little. I worked at a bank before I got married." "Really?" Ms. Parker looked up, interested. "How long?" 5 years. I was an administrative assistant, handled credit analysis, account transactions, things like that." "And you quit when you got married?" My ex-husband thought it was best." Ms. Parker made a face. "Let me guess. He said his wife didn't need to work outside the home." "Exactly. Men who say that are usually afraid their wives will realize they can live without them," Ms. Parker said, turning back to her papers. "Well, if you understand this stuff, maybe you can help me out sometimes. I have an employee who handles the technical side, but sometimes I need an extra hand to organize documents, basic things like that." Jennifer felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a chance to use her skills again. The following week, Richard showed up at Old Joe's hardware store where Jennifer was buying cleaning supplies. She tried to hide between the shelves, but he spotted her. "Look who's here!" he said loudly so everyone could hear. "The former housewife working as a maid." The other customers in the store turned to look. Jennifer's face burned with shame. "How's the life of a domestic worker treating you?" he continued with that cruel laugh. "Bet you regret provoking me now, huh?" "Richard, please what? Now you realize the world isn't as easy as you thought? That there's no fool of a husband to pay for your luxuries?" Old Joe, the store owner, a man in his 70s who had known them both for years, stepped forward. Richard, son, no need to make a scene in my store. I'm not making a scene, old Joe. Just having a chat with my ex-wife. She's the one who decided to leave, thinking she'd be better off without me. I didn't leave, Jennifer said, her voice trembling. You threw me out. I threw you out because you were useless anyway. At least now you're working for real for the first time in your life. His laughter echoed through the store. Jennifer quickly paid for her items and rushed out. On the street, tears streamed down her face. The humiliation hurt more than any physical pain. When she got home, Ms. Parker could tell she was shaken. Did something happen? Jennifer told her about running into Richard. Ms. Parker listened silently, her expression stern. What kind of man humiliates a woman in public? She said when Jennifer finished. That says far more about him than about you. But he's not wrong, Jennifer murmured. I never contributed financially. I lived off him for 17 years. Jennifer, stop talking nonsense, Ms. Parker said firmly. You took care of the house, looked after his mother, gave up your career. Isn't that contribution? He says anyone could have done what I did. Anyone? Ms. Parker let out a dry laugh. Let me tell you something. When my husband died, I realized I didn't even know where he kept the important documents. Know why? Because I left everything to him. Thought that stuff was a man's job. I almost lost my business because of it. Jennifer looked at her in surprise. The difference is, I was lucky. My husband wasn't a bad man. He really took care of things. He just didn't include me out of machismo, not malice. As for your... What do you mean? Nothing. Forget it, said Miss Parker, turning back to the papers. But Jennifer couldn't forget. There was something in Miss Parker's tone that suggested she knew something. At the end of that week, Miss Parker called Jennifer into the office. You said you understood credit analysis, right? Yes, a little. I want you to take a look at something. Miss Parker handed her a folder. One of my clients is applying for a loan at the bank, but I have a bad feeling there's something off about the information he provided. Jennifer opened the folder and began reviewing the documents. It didn't take long to spot the inconsistencies. Here, she said, pointing to one of the pages. The income he declared doesn't match his account activity. And look here, there are 2 invoices with the same number, but different amounts. I knew it, Ms. Parker exclaimed. He's trying to inflate the numbers to get a bigger loan. It seems so. And if you look at his tax return, there are more inconsistencies. Ms. Parker was impressed with Jennifer's analysis. You have a really sharp eye. How many years did you say you worked at the bank? 5. I left in 2005 when I got married. And you never worked in finance again? Never. My ex-husband always said I was out of practice, that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the changes. Nonsense, the basics don't change that much. Jennifer, I have a proposal for you. Jennifer looked at her expectantly. How about you help me here at the office a few hours a day? Nothing too complex, just organizing documents, doing simple analyses like this one. I can teach you what's changed over the years, but I haven't had an active work registration in a long time, and my knowledge might be outdated. We'll figure it out. Start slow, see how you adjust. If it works out, we'll formalize everything properly. Jennifer felt her heart race. It was a chance to do what she knew again, to feel useful once more. I accept, she said, trying to control her excitement. Great. We'll start on Monday. That night, Jennifer could barely sleep from anticipation. For the first time since the divorce, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe she really could rebuild her life. On Monday, Ms. Parker introduced her to Amanda, the only other employee at the company. Amanda, this is Jennifer. She's going to help us here in the office. Amanda was a woman in her 30s, efficient and organized. She greeted Jennifer politely, but Jennifer noticed a hint of skepticism in her eyes. Have you worked in accounting before? Amanda asked. Not exactly. I worked at a bank, but it's been a while. I see. Well, I hope you adjust. The work here is pretty demanding. Jennifer started by organizing files and doing simple client analyses. Little by little, she remembered concepts she'd forgotten, rediscovering skills she thought she'd lost. Ms. Parker watched discreetly and seemed pleased with her progress. At the end of the first week, Ms. Parker called her in again. How are you feeling? Good. A little unsure still, but I think I'm keeping up. Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question? Did you really never handle money during your marriage? Never helped your ex-husband with any of his finances? The question caught Jennifer off guard. Why do you ask? Just curious. It seems odd for a man to keep his wife completely out of the business for so long. Jennifer hesitated. The truth was, she wasn't completely left out. Richard wasn't good with numbers, so sometimes he'd ask her to check some accounts, organize some papers. But he always said it was simple stuff, that anyone could do it. Sometimes he'd ask me to help with a few things, and she admitted, organizing invoices, checking accounts, but nothing important. What kind of accounts? Suppliers, employees, taxes. But he always said it was basic stuff. Ms. Parker and Amanda exchanged a meaningful glance. Jennifer, Ms. Parker said carefully, those basic things you were doing, that's practically the entire financial side of a business. What do you mean? You handled the bookkeeping for your ex-husband's shop, probably without even realizing it. Jennifer felt like she'd been punched in the gut. All those years, Richard had made her believe she didn't understand anything, that the tasks he gave her were insignificant. But if Ms. Parker was right... Do you remember how the shop's finances were when you left? Amanda asked. They were fine. Richard always said business was going great, that he was a successful entrepreneur. And you believed that? Why wouldn't I? Ms. Parker sighed. Jennifer, you're smart, very smart. But your ex-husband convinced you that you were incapable. It's a very common form of manipulation. Are you suggesting that... I'm not suggesting anything. I just think you should have more confidence in yourself. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. That night, Jennifer couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. Had she really contributed more than she realized? She tried to recall the past few years, all the times Richard had asked for her help with the shop's paperwork. She remembered a time when he was extremely worried about a tax issue. He'd spent days anxious, saying he could lose everything. She was the one who spotted an error in the filings and suggested a way to fix it. Richard was relieved but downplayed her discovery at the time. Any accountant would have seen that, he said. You just got lucky. But what if it wasn't luck? What if she actually understood more than he wanted to admit? The following week, Jennifer was sorting through some documents when one folder caught her eye. It belonged to a new client, someone who wanted to open an auto repair shop. As she reviewed the papers, she noticed similarities to what she'd done for Richard. Ms. Parker, she called, can I ask you something about this client? Of course. He's asking for guidance on how to organize the shop's finances, right? That's right. Why? Because I remember doing similar work for my ex-husband years ago. Ms. Parker stepped closer, intrigued. What kind of work? He was struggling to manage cash flow. Suppliers were demanding payments. Employees complained about delays. But he claimed he didn't understand the problem. I took all the paperwork and made a spreadsheet tracking every income and expense. And then, I found out he was spending way more than he earned. He had unnecessary expenses, was buying overly expensive parts, paying suppliers with bad terms. I wrote a full report suggesting changes. Did it work? It worked really well. Within months, things stabilized. But Richard always said it was luck, that anyone could have done the same. Amanda, who'd been listening, joined them. Jennifer, do you still have that spreadsheet? No. Everything stayed at the house when he kicked me out. Do you remember how you did it? Sort of. Why? Because what you did is called business consulting, Ms. Parker said. And not just anyone can do that. You diagnosed financial problems and proposed effective solutions. That's expert-level work. Jennifer's stomach fluttered. Could it be that all those years she'd been doing work she never even knew was valuable? Jennifer, continued Ms. Parker, I want you to help this client. With my supervision, of course, but I want to see how you do. I don't know if I'm ready. You are. Trust me. The client's name was Bob Miller, and he had a small auto shop in Meadowbrook. When Jennifer and Ms. Parker arrived, she was surprised by how much it reminded her of Richard's shop. The same kind of disorganization, the same cash flow problems. Mr. Miller, said Ms. Parker, this is Jennifer, my assistant. She's going to help analyze the shop situation. Bob Miller was a man in his 40s, friendly but visibly worried. Ms. Parker, I'm desperate. I don't understand where the problem is, but the money just isn't adding up. I work all day. The shop is always busy, but at the end of the month there's never enough. Jennifer started reviewing the documents he had set aside. Invoices, receipts, payroll sheets, all mixed up with no organization. Exactly how she had found Richard's shop years ago. "Mr. Miller," she said after an hour of reviewing, "do you track how much you earn per service?" "What do you mean?" "Do you know how much each type of service costs? Oil change, alignment, full inspection?" "Oh, that I know by heart. Oil change is $50, alignment 80, inspection depends on the car." "And do you know how much it costs you to perform each of those services?" Bob Miller fell silent. "What do you mean, how much it costs?" "Materials, labor, overhead, the actual cost of each service." "I've never thought about that," he admitted. "I just charge what everyone else in the area does." Jennifer spent the whole afternoon with Bob Miller, showing him how to calculate the real cost of each service, how to organize finances, and how to manage inventory. It was exactly what she had done for Richard, but now she realized the complexity and importance of that work. By the end of the day, Ms. Parker was impressed. "Jennifer, you have a natural talent for this." "Bob, what did you think?" "Wow, Ms. Parker, this young lady is a lifesaver. No one's ever explained these things so clearly to me." On the way back, Ms. Parker was thrilled. "Jennifer, you need to take a course to update your skills. You have the potential to be a real business consultant." "You really think so?" "I'm sure of it. And you know what else? I bet your ex-husband knew it too. That's why he was so determined to put you down." Ms. Parker's words echoed in Jennifer's head for days. Had Richard really known the value of her work? Was that why he always discouraged her from working outside, always said she wasn't capable? A week later, she got her answer. She was at the grocery store when she ran into Brenda, a former employee from Richard's shop. "Jennifer, so good to see you. How are you?" "Hi, Brenda. I'm doing well. And you? Still working at the shop?" Brenda made a face. "No. I left 2 months ago. Things were getting bad there." "What do you mean?" "Oh, Jennifer, ever since you left, everything fell apart. Richard can't keep anything organized. Suppliers are cutting off credit. Employees are quitting because paychecks are late." Jennifer felt a tightness in her chest. "But how? The shop was always doing well." "It was while you were there handling the books. Richard won't admit it, but everyone knows you were the one keeping things in order." "Brenda, don't exaggerate." "I'm not. Remember that issue with the tax inspector 3 years ago? You were the one who found the mistake and fixed it. And when suppliers were overcharging, you negotiated better prices. Richard handled the technical side, but you were the one managing the money." Jennifer was stunned, so it was true. For all these years, she had been responsible for the financial side of the workshop without even realizing the importance of what she did. "Why did you never tell me this?" "Because Richard wouldn't allow it. He made a point of downplaying your role in front of everyone. Said you only helped with little things. But we knew the truth." "And now? How's he managing?" "Badly. Really badly. Last week he had to let 2 employees go because he couldn't pay them. And mind you, demand hasn't dropped. The problem is organization, plain and simple." Brenda glanced around and moved closer. "Jennifer, can I tell you something? People are saying Richard regrets kicking you out, especially after the problems started piling up." "Regrets?" "Yeah. His mother, Mrs. Wilson, keeps telling everyone how much they miss you, that the house isn't the same without you, and he himself, well, let's just say he's not so sure he did the right thing anymore." Jennifer didn't know what to feel. Relief at discovering she wasn't as useless as he'd always claimed? Anger for being belittled all those years? Pity for him struggling now? "Brenda, can I ask you something? Don't tell anyone you told me this, okay?" "Of course, Jennifer, but think about what I said. You were always more important than you realized." That night, Jennifer told Ms. Parker everything. "So that's it," said Ms. Parker, shaking her head. "I suspected something like this." "How did you suspect?" "Jennifer, a workshop doesn't stay prosperous for 17 years on technical skills alone. It takes financial organization, and from what I've seen, it was obvious you understood far more than your ex-husband wanted to admit. But why would he do that? Why put me down when I was helping? Control. Men like him need to feel superior. If he admitted you were vital to the business, he'd have to treat you as an equal, not a dependent. And now, what do I do with this? Nothing. You keep building your new life. Let him deal with the mess he made. But Ms. Parker, if he's struggling... Jennifer, Ms. Parker cut in firmly. You owe him nothing. He humiliated you, threw you out, made you believe you were worthless. Now that he's realized he needs you, it's not your job to save him. Jennifer knew Ms. Parker was right, yet guilt lingered. After all, they'd spent 17 years together. The next month, Bob Miller referred Jennifer to another client, then 2 more. Ms. Parker had to formalize her role at the company, registering her as a junior business consultant. You're doing so well, I'll have to raise your pay, Ms. Parker joked. Jennifer could hardly believe the change in her life. In just months, she'd gone from a humiliated woman with no prospects to a sought-after professional. She was organizing her desk when Amanda approached. Jennifer, there's a letter for you. It was a plain envelope, her name handwritten inside. A crumpled note held a short message. We need to talk. R. Her stomach twisted. Richard wanted to speak. Something wrong? Amanda asked, noticing her expression. It's from my ex. He wants to talk. Will you go? I don't know if I'm ready. Jennifer, Amanda said, sitting beside her. Can I give my 2 cents? Of course. You've changed so much since you got here. At first you were unsure, doubting everything. Now you're confident, capable, respected. Don't let him drag you back to who you were. What if he really regrets it? What if he wants another chance? Then let him prove it. But remember, you don't need him anymore. He's the one who needs you. That night, Jennifer kept thinking about the letter. Part of her was curious to know what Richard wanted. Another part was afraid of falling back into his manipulation. She decided she would meet him, but on her terms, not at the old house, not somewhere that could embarrass her. She chose the diner in the central square, a public place where she'd feel safe. She sent a message through her neighbor's son. Tomorrow, 3 in the afternoon, diner in the square. 15 minutes. The next day, she arrived at the diner right on time. Richard was already there, sitting at a table in the back. He had lost weight, his beard was unkempt, and he wore a tired expression she didn't recognize. Hi, he said as she approached. Hi, you said you wanted to talk. Sit, please. Jennifer sat but kept her posture straight, ready to leave at any moment. How have you been? He asked. Fine, working. I heard. They told me you're doing accounting again. Business consulting, she corrected. And you, how are things at the shop? Richard sighed. Not good, Jennifer. To be honest, they're terrible. I'm sorry. Are you really? Of course I am. I don't wish harm on anyone. They sat in silence for a moment. Jennifer waited for him to say what he needed to say. Jennifer, I made a mistake, he finally admitted. A big one. What mistake? Sending you away, treating you badly, not recognizing what you did. Jennifer felt her heart race but kept her expression neutral. And what did I do, Richard? You took care of everything. The bills, the suppliers, the organization. I didn't realize it at the time, but now that you're not there, now you see it wasn't as simple as you thought. Yeah, he lowered his head. Jennifer, I need you. The shop needs you. Oh, really? Jennifer leaned forward. What's changed? 3 months ago, you said I was useless, that I never contributed anything, that anyone could do what I did. I was wrong. You were. And do you know why you said that? Richard didn't answer. Because you always knew the value of my work. You always knew I was essential to the shop's success, but admitting that would have meant treating me as a partner, not an employee. Jennifer, let me finish. You made me believe I was stupid, incapable, dependent. You isolated me from friends, family, the job market, all to keep me dependent on you. That's not... It is, Richard, and it worked for a long time. But now I've discovered who I really am. I've found my worth. Richard looked at her with an expression she'd never seen before. Almost Fear? What do you want me to do? He asked. Nothing. You don't need to do anything. I just wanted you to know I'm doing well. Better than ever, actually. Jennifer, please, come home. We can talk. We can try again. No. Her answer was firm, without hesitation. I'm not coming back, Richard. I've built a new life, a new career. I have clients who respect me, colleagues who value me. Why would I give that up? Because we've been married for 17 years. That has to count for something. It did, but you threw it all away when you humiliated me in front of the whole neighborhood and kicked me out. Richard ran a hand over his face, visibly desperate. Jennifer, the shop is failing. Without you, I can't do it. The suppliers cut off credit, the employees are leaving. I don't understand any of these, Bill. Then hire an accountant. I've tried. No one can sort out that mess. You know the system, the suppliers, how everything works. New. That was 3 months ago. Things change, Richard. Please, at least help me as a consultant. I'll pay whatever you want. Jennifer studied him for a long moment. 3 months ago, a plea like that would have melted her heart. Now she saw the manipulation behind his words clearly. No. She stood up from the chair. Richard, you made your choice when you kicked me out of the house. Now you live with the consequences. Jennifer, wait. Our 15 minutes are up. She grabbed her purse. Good luck in life. She left the diner without looking back. On the street, she felt her legs trembling, but not from fear or sadness. It was relief. She had finally closed that chapter of her life. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot for those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. When she arrived at the office, Ms. Parker immediately noticed something had happened. How did it go? Exactly as you said it would. He wants me back, not out of love, but because he needs me to save the workshop. And you? I said no, firmly and for good. Ms. Parker smiled. I'm proud of you. I know it wasn't easy. Actually, it was easier than I thought. When I looked at him, I didn't feel anything anymore. No anger, no pity, no longing. Just relief for being out of that situation. That's a sign you've truly moved on. Yeah, now I just want to focus on the future. And the future looked promising. Jennifer's consulting business was growing fast. Ms. Parker decided to open a new division in the company, specializing in small business consulting, with Jennifer in charge. Are you sure? Jennifer asked when Ms. Parker made the offer. It's a lot of responsibility. I'm absolutely sure. Your clients adore you. You have a special way of explaining complex things simply. It's exactly what I need. The new division was an instant success. Within months, Jennifer had a full schedule of clients and a waiting list. Her income had tripled compared to what she made as a cleaner. But more important than the money was her regained self-esteem. Jennifer felt useful, respected, valued. She bought new clothes, got a haircut, and moved into a small but cozy apartment downtown. One afternoon, as she was leaving the bank, she saw a familiar scene. On the corner, a man was yelling at a woman who cried silently. Beside them, 2 small children watched with frightened eyes. "You're good for nothing," the man shouted. "All you do is waste money." The woman tried to explain, but he wouldn't let her speak. Jennifer's stomach turned. It was like watching her own story from months ago. Without thinking, she approached the couple. "Excuse me," she said to the woman. "Are you okay?" The man glared at her. "None of your business." When someone humiliates a woman in front of children, it becomes everyone's business, Jennifer replied calmly. "You don't know anything. I know this isn't how you solve problems." She turned to the woman. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" The woman shook her head, still crying. "Then come with me. I know a safe place where you and the children can stay." "She's not going anywhere," the man snapped. "She's my wife." "A woman isn't anyone's property," Jennifer said, looking him straight in the eye. "And children don't deserve to see their parents fighting in the street." The man took a threatening step toward her, but she didn't back down. "Do you really want to make an even bigger scene in front of everyone?" she asked, gesturing to the people who had stopped to watch. He glanced around, realized he was being watched, and stepped back. "This isn't over," he muttered before walking away. Jennifer helped the woman and children up and took them to Hope House. On the way, she learned her name was Sarah, married for 8 years to a man who controlled her completely. "He won't let me work, won't let me go out alone, monitors every penny that comes into the house," Sarah said between sobs. "And do you have any education? Any work experience?" "I have a degree in education. I worked as a teacher for 2 years before getting married, but he said teachers don't earn much, that it wasn't worth it." "Sarah," said Jennifer, stopping in the middle of the street, "you're repeating the same story I lived. I also got my degree, I also worked, and I also stopped when I got married because my husband said it was better that way." "And what happened?" 3 months ago, he kicked me out of the house, saying I was useless. Today I have my own business consulting firm and earn more than I did when I was married." Sarah looked at her in disbelief. "That's really possible?" "It absolutely is, but it takes courage to start over." At Hope House, Jennifer introduced Sarah to Dorothy, who now worked as the shelter's coordinator. "Dorothy, this is Sarah. She needs a place to stay with her children for a few days." "Of course, dear. You can stay as long as you need." "And Dorothy, Sarah is an educator. Do you know of any schools looking for teachers?" "I know several. The city is always in need of teachers." Jennifer spent the next few days helping Sarah get organized. She went with her to the police station to file a report, helped her gather documents, and recommended a family law attorney. "Why are you doing all this?" Sarah asked. "You don't even know me." "Because someone did the same for me when I needed it, and because I know what it's like to feel lost and worthless." "You felt that way?" "For 17 years, my ex-husband convinced me I was incapable, stupid, and dependent. Now I know it was all a lie." "How did you realize?" "I met people who gave me the chance to prove my worth, and most of all, I learned to trust myself." Sarah got a job as a substitute teacher at a public school. It was temporary, but it was a start. With her first paycheck, she rented a small room in the back of an elderly woman's house and moved out of the shelter. "Jennifer, how can I ever thank you?" she asked on moving day. "By building a new and happy life. And if one day you meet someone in the same situation, help them too. I promise." Sarah's story spread through town. Other women in similar situations began reaching out to Jennifer for help. She realized there was a real need for support for women leaving abusive relationships. She talked to Ms. Parker about creating a social project. "That's an excellent idea," Ms. Parker said. "We could offer free consulting for women who want to start a business or re-enter the workforce." "You'd really be willing?" "Of course. Remember when I told you I almost lost everything when my husband died? I know exactly how it feels to be financially lost." They created the Fresh Start Project, offering free professional and business guidance for women in vulnerable situations. The project was so successful that they secured a partnership with the city and their own dedicated space. Jennifer was fulfilling a dream she hadn't even known she had. Helping other women discover their worth and rebuild their lives gave her own experience entirely new meaning. 6 months after their meeting at the diner, Jennifer was walking through the park when she saw Richard sitting on a bench, his head down. He looked visibly worn out, wrinkled clothes, an unkempt beard. For a moment, her heart ached, not with love but pity. She thought about approaching him, asking how he was, but then she remembered Amanda's words. "You don't need him anymore. He's the one who needs you." She kept walking. Richard didn't see her. 2 weeks later, Brenda showed up at the office. "Jennifer, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Brenda. How are you?" "Good. I got a job at a new auto shop that opened in Industrial Park. But I'm not here to talk about me. I came to talk about Richard." Jennifer felt her stomach tighten. "What about him?" "Jennifer, the workshop closed." "What do you mean closed?" "It went bankrupt. Richard couldn't pay the bills anymore, had to sell everything to settle the debts. Now he's unemployed." Jennifer didn't know what to feel. There was no joy in the news, but no sadness either. "And him? How is he?" "Bad. Really bad. He's living with his mother because he lost the house too." "Mrs. Wilson is furious, always throwing it in his face that it was stupid to send you away. I'm sorry for him," Jennifer said, and she meant it. but there's nothing I can do." "I know, and I didn't come here to ask you to do anything. I just thought you should know." "Thank you for telling me. Jennifer, can I say something? You look beautiful, happy. It's good to see things worked out for you." "Thank you, Brenda. It took a while, but they really did." After Brenda left, Jennifer kept thinking about the conversation. The workshop's bankruptcy was the final confirmation that she had truly been essential to the business's success. But she didn't feel victorious about it. Instead, she felt a deep peace. A chapter had closed. That life, that marriage, that dependence, it was all firmly in the past. At the end of that year, Jennifer was invited to give a talk on women's entrepreneurship at the City Council. It was the first time she would speak publicly about her experience. "A year ago," she began, facing an audience of over 100 women, "I was a 42-year-old woman who thought she was incapable of anything. I'd spent 17 years believing I couldn't do anything but clean houses and take care of my mother-in-law." Some women in the audience shifted in their seats, clearly relating. "Today, a year later, I have my own consulting firm. I help dozens of small business owners. I run a social project, and I support my household with dignity." "What changed?" Jennifer paused, looking at the women in the audience. "It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was simply realizing that I've always had worth, that I've always been capable. I just needed an opportunity to prove it, mostly to myself." The words flowed naturally. Jennifer told her story without drama, without playing the victim, but also without downplaying the suffering she'd endured. Many of you are in relationships where you don't feel valued, where you hear every day that you can't do anything, that you don't understand anything, that you're dependent. I want to tell you something. That's a lie. Several women in the audience began to cry. You are capable. You have worth. You absolutely can rebuild your lives if you need to, but first you have to believe in yourselves. After the talk, many women approached her. Some wanted professional help, others just wanted to talk. Jennifer listened to each with patience and kindness. "You gave me hope," said a woman in her 60s. "I've been married for 40 years to a man who belittles me every day. I always thought it was too late to change." "It's never too late," Jennifer replied. "What matters isn't how old you are, it's the life you still have ahead of you." That night, alone in her apartment, Jennifer looked out the window and reflected on the past year. 12 months ago, she'd been crying at Hope House, thinking her life was over. Today, she was helping other women rebuild theirs. The transformation had been complete, not just professionally or financially, but most of all, emotionally. She'd regained her self-esteem, her independence, her dignity. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Ms. Parker. "Jennifer, sorry to call so late, but an interesting offer came in." "What kind of offer?" "A consulting firm in New York wants to hire you. They heard about your work here and want you to lead a national small business consulting project." Jennifer felt her heart race. "First National?" "Yes. It would be an incredible opportunity for your career. Excellent salary, health insurance, benefits. But would I have to move?" "You would, at least initially." Jennifer fell silent, processing the information. "You don't have to decide now," said Ms. Parker. "Think it over. But this is an opportunity that might not come again." After hanging up, Jennifer kept staring out the window. New York, a megalopolis where no one knew her as Richard's ex-wife, where she could start completely from scratch. On the other hand, Oak Ridge had become her home again. She had clients who trusted her, true friends, the social project she loved so much. It was a tough decision, but also a good problem to have. A year ago, she'd had no choice at all. Now she had to choose between two great opportunities. The next morning, she decided to talk to Dorothy about the offer. Her friend listened carefully. "And what do you want to do?" Dorothy asked. "I don't know. It's an amazing opportunity, but I'm also scared of starting all over somewhere else. Jennifer, you've already proven you can make a fresh start. The question is, what would make you happier? I don't have an answer for that yet." "Then maybe you should talk to the person who knows you best." "What do you mean?" "Talk to the Jennifer from a year ago. What would she say about having two such good options to choose from?" Jennifer smiled. Dorothy always had a unique way of looking at things. That afternoon, she went to Hope House and sat in the same room where she'd spent her first night alone. She tried to reconnect with the woman she'd been a year ago. The Jennifer from back then had been desperate, hopeless, thinking her life was over. If someone had told her that in 12 months she'd be choosing between two excellent career opportunities, she wouldn't have believed it. The answer came naturally. No matter what she chose, what mattered was having choices. It was about knowing her worth. It was about becoming a strong, independent woman. She decided to stay in Oak Ridge. New York was tempting, but her life was here. Her clients, her projects, her friends. She had built something solid and didn't want to walk away. She called Ms. Parker to share her decision. "Are you sure?" her friend asked. "Absolutely. This is where I belong." "Then let's expand our projects right here. I have some ideas." 2 years after the day she'd been kicked out of her home, Jennifer was preparing a talk on financial management for small business owners when she got an unexpected visitor. It was Richard. He looked different, thinner, graying hair, simple but clean clothes. The arrogance she knew so well was gone. "Hi, Jennifer." "Hi, Richard. What are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk to you. If you'll let me, of course." Jennifer studied him with curiosity. There was no anger or fear, just genuine curiosity. "Go ahead." "I wanted to apologize." "Apologize for what?" "For everything. For belittling you all those years. For throwing you out of the house, for not recognizing your worth. For being a complete idiot." Jennifer studied his face. He seemed sincere. "What changed to make you realize this?" "Losing everything. The shop, the house, the money. Having to depend on my mother at 45. Hearing her tell me every day that I was a fool for sending you away. And do you agree with her?" "I do. You were always smarter than me. Always better with money, with people, with problems. I was only good at the technical stuff. Why didn't you ever admit that before?" "Pride? Machismo? Insecurity?" He hung his head. "I was afraid you'd realize you didn't need me. And you were right. I really didn't. I know. And seeing how well you've done on your own, it's clear I was the one who needed you." They sat in silence for a moment. "Richard, why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to hear it. Because I was wrong and you were right. And because..." He hesitated. "Because what?" "Because I still love you. And I wanted to know if there's any chance you'd forgive me and we could try again." Jennifer looked at him with a mix of surprise and pity. "Richard, I forgive you. Truly. I don't hold any grudges." "So, there's a chance?" "No." Her answer was firm but not cruel. "There's no chance at all." "Why? If you forgive me." "Because forgiving doesn't mean going back. I've built a new life, Richard. A life where I'm respected, valued, where my opinion matters. Why would I give that up?" "Because we had a history together." "We did, past tense. Now I have a future ahead of me and you're not part of it." Richard seemed to shrink in his chair. "I understand. I just wanted you to know I regret everything." "I know you do. But some things can't be undone, Richard. What you did to me, how you treated me, and it's not something I can forget. What if I changed? If I went to therapy, if I..." "It's not about you changing," Jennifer interrupted. "It's about me having changed. I found out who I am when I'm not being diminished every day. I discovered my worth, my strength. Why would I go back to a situation where that was at risk?" Richard fell silent, clearly fighting back tears. "You're right. You've always been right." He stood up. "I just wanted you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too stupid to see it at the time. Thank you for saying that, really. Are you happy now?" "Very happy. I'm glad for you." He walked to the door but paused. "Jennifer, do you think someday, not to get back together, but maybe to be friends?" "I don't know, Richard. Maybe. With time, maybe." "I understand. Goodbye, Jennifer." "Goodbye." After he left, Jennifer sat thinking about their conversation. She felt nothing but deep peace. The meeting had been like closing a chapter of her life for good. Richard had lost everything he once valued: his business, his home, his money. She had gained everything that truly mattered: self-respect, independence, purpose. In the end, they had both reaped what they'd sown. 3 months later, Jennifer was organizing the first regional seminar on women's entrepreneurship when she got an unexpected call. "Hello, is this Jennifer Thompson?" "Yes, speaking. My name is Michael Roberts. I'm a journalist with small business and big success. We'd like to do a feature on your work." "On my work?" "Yes. We heard about your story and the Fresh Start project. We think it could inspire other women." "I don't know if my story is that interesting." "Believe me, it is. A woman who rises from hardship to become a successful entrepreneur while helping other women. That's incredibly inspiring." Jennifer agreed to the interview. The article ran 2 months later under the headline, "From Homemaker to Consultant, Jennifer Thompson's Story of Triumph." The response was far greater than she'd imagined. She started getting invitations to speak in other cities, partnership offers, and messages from women across the country sharing similar stories. "You've become a phenomenon," Ms. Parker joked. "I think we'll need to hire a PR team." "That's not what I want," Jennifer said. "I don't want to be a celebrity. I just want to keep helping women." "And that's exactly what you're doing, only now on a much bigger scale." It was true. The Fresh Start project had expanded to 5 cities in the region. Jennifer was developing an online course on financial independence for women. There were plans for a book. All of it made her happy, but also a little nervous. She didn't want success to change who she was at heart, her connection to the women she helped. One day, she received a letter that moved her deeply. It was from Sarah, the first woman she had ever helped. "Jennifer, I don't even know how to begin thanking you. Today marks a year since you found me crying on the street with my children. That day I thought my life was over. Now I'm the principal at the school where I started as a substitute teacher. I finished a specialization in school administration and am working on my master's degree. My children are happy and safe. All of this started when you showed me I had worth. You didn't just save my life, you saved my children's future. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Jennifer cried as she read the letter. This was what made it all worthwhile. Not the professional success, not the recognition, but the lives she had touched. That night, alone in her apartment, she looked out the window again. 3 years ago, in that same neighborhood, she had walked the streets crying, not knowing where to spend the night. Now she had a thriving business, dozens of employees, hundreds of clients. But what made her proudest wasn't in the financial numbers. It was in letters like Sarah's, in the smiles of women who had gotten a fresh start, in the certainty that she was making a difference. She picked up her phone and sent a message to Dorothy. "Thank you for showing me it's never too late to start over." The reply came quickly. "Thank you for proving me right." Jennifer smiled and looked out the window again. Outside, other women might be going through what she had once endured. Women who thought they were worthless, who believed they couldn't do anything, who depended completely on someone else. To them, Jennifer had become more than a business consultant. She had become a symbol that it's possible to start over, no matter your age, no matter the circumstances. And when Richard kicked her out of the house laughing, saying she'd leave empty-handed, he couldn't have been more wrong. Jennifer didn't leave empty-handed. She took with her the most valuable thing she had, her own worth. A worth he had never been able to see, but one she had finally discovered. The cruel laughter that echoed that afternoon 3 years ago had become the push she needed to find out who she truly was. And what she discovered surprised not just Richard, but the entire town of Oak Ridge, a strong, intelligent, capable woman who had always been there just waiting for the right moment to shine. End of story. Now, tell me what you thought of this story of resilience and fresh starts. Do you know any woman who's been through a similar situation? Share your thoughts in the comments about Jennifer's decision not to go back to her ex-husband, even after he apologized. If this story moved you, don't forget to like it, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories like this one.